Today we back with Othello, Act 2, Scene 1 and 2. So the scene 1, it starts with Montano and three other gentlemen standing on the shore, on the seaport, and we see them waiting for a ship, for a news of victory. We've already seen in the preceding preface, the other two scenes, that the warlike Moor has gone at the command of the Duke. He has gone in order to defeat the Ottoman Turks. And we know that Michael Cassio, his right hand man, his lieutenant, has also followed him. And in this scene, the scene opens with these gentlemen waiting for the news. And here Shakespeare uses the sea almost in a form of personification, we can say. The sea is very symbolic here. The sea is raging, there's thunder, there is storm. And this also makes us feel, the tension is being built in the scene by the sea, how the sea looks, and we soon feel that this is how the lives of the people are also going to look. Are they all going to be tossed into a storm, both internal and external? So here the three gentlemen stand outside and they speak to one another and they say that there is no way anybody can escape such a storm. This storm will surely swallow the ships and they will all be drowned at sea. And we see there is an agonized waiting, there is anticipation, there is anxiety. So here Shakespeare is building up the scene so that this anxiety comes into the viewer or the reader, and we too are now waiting, holding our breath and waiting to see who has won this war. And that is when Michael Cassio comes into the scene and he declares that the Ottoman Turks have been drowned at sea. Providence itself has destroyed them. Their ships were not strong enough to last through these storms and they have died. They are drowned. But at the same time, he says, I fear for my general. And we see how Cassio is truly very dedicated, very loyal to the Moor, and he wishes to see the Moor safely back on land. He says that he has lost the Moor at sea, their ships have been separated, and Cassio has come back to the port. And now we see that on the other hand, we see Iago, Desdemona, and Emilia coming down from the ship. Here we have a lot of questions jumping at us from this chapter. So, some of the questions that the audience or the reader will definitely think about is, what is the nature of Desdemona's love to Othello? What is the love between them? Another question that comes to our mind is the relationship between Cassio and Othello. Yet another is the character of Desdemona. How does it play out in this scene? So these are all what we are going to see in the narrative. So Desdemona comes out and she very openly, very eagerly asks, has my lord returned? Where is he? Where is Othello? Has he come back? And we see the gentleman and Cassio reassuring her, telling her that yes, he will soon come. The Turks have been destroyed, they have been defeated. And on one side, we see the gentleman, Montano, asking Cassio, is your general married? So is your general married? And Cassio, with great pride, he replies, that fair lady is my captain's captain. She is the captain of his life. So you see that Cassio has so much respect for Desdemona. He loves the couple. He thinks that they are so suited for each other, and he feels that she is somebody fit enough to be his captain's captain. And she says that she is a paragon of virtue. In contrast, we see what Iago feels towards Desdemona. As soon as Iago, Emilia, and Desdemona alight from the ship, We hear Iago talking about women in a very derogatory, very reductive language. He says that all women are vixens, they are like cats, they just fight, and they use their sexuality and their beauty only in order to win material goods. And he goes on speaking about women in a very derogatory, very bawdy manner. But we see the difference between Emilia and Desdemona. Emilia, who has spent her life with this very, very evil character, she has no reply to make. She is quiet, she is subdued. But Desdemona is playful. She has all the naivete of a child. She is naive and innocent, and so she replies. She is confident. Here we can make out that she is confident in her worth, in her goodness, in her modesty, in her character as a woman. And she replies to Iago, she says, no, such is not. Not all women are like that. And he says, no, the plain ones as well as the pretty ones, they all make use of men. And they are wanton in their livelihood. They do not try to save for the sake of their husbands or their families. But in their sexuality, they are stingy. They use the sexual favors in order to attain their aims. So we can see that he is such a lowly character. And again, we are taken back into the Jacobean Elizabethan England, where we see that the status of a woman is coming quite low. There is the binary opposite of the Mary, the Virgin, and the Magdalene, the sinner. A woman is both promiscuous. She is either promiscuous or she must be so modest that she has no voice at all. She cannot exist as a woman. She has to be the angel or the devil incarnate. And here we have our Desdemona, who is happily, loudly proclaiming herself a woman who has character enough to look above the racial prejudice, a woman who has character enough to stand against her family in order to win the love of the man she considers her Lord, and yet at the same time angelic enough to be modest, to be so subdued, so gentle and kind that all the people around her see her as a model of perfection. We see that Cassio describes her as one by whom creation itself blushes. He says that creation has reached its zenith in making her because she is so perfect that and so ingenious that creation itself has stopped there, saying that the creation has come to its level best. And throughout, we see that Desdemona does not understand Iago's character. She thinks that he is being a body soldier, and she too replies boldly. And she tells Emilia, pray do not listen to this man, even though he is your lord. How dare he mock us women? But she takes it in a playful manner. She cannot believe that somebody would be so evil. And then she gets the news that Othello is saved, that he is back. Michael Cassio announces the warlike Moor is back. And when she sees the Moor, we see that Desdemona rushes forward. She embraces her love and she declares that she is so happy to see him. The Moor we see is also equally elated, and he says, I do not care how many storms there are in my life. If after every storm I could see your fair face. He addresses her as my fair warrior. So these words actually have a depth of meaning, because has Othello unknowingly, is he calling on himself a dark and evil fate, asking for storms in his life? And here Shakespeare is slowly preparing us for more and more storms to come in. And Desdemona immediately says, indeed not, we do not need storms, for I believe that as we grow older, our love for each other will only increase. So again, we see the character Rodrigo comes in. Rodrigo is very sad that yet again the plan has been spoilt. The Moor has come back valorous, even more greater, and he is back in the hands of his beautiful wife. So Rodrigo sees that there is no chance for him to win the beautiful Desdemona. And here it is that we see Iago is not only manipulative, the evil genius can also be said to be an extraordinary improviser. The character of Iago as an improviser is something that we can see in this chapter. He immediately sees that Othello has come back. Now he needs to devise more plans. He has to improvise his plans. And he gets an idea. That is when he sees Michael Cassio standing with the beautiful Desdemona. Michael Cassio holds their hands, both ladies. He kisses their hands, and this shows his breeding as a gentleman. He says that this is my breeding, this is the way I was brought up. He is an elite gentleman. From the beginning, we have seen that he is quite educated. He is not the rough soldier, but rather one who is well versed in social norms. And he conducts the ladies holding their hand. So this gives Iago an idea. He says that Michael Cassio is a fair Venetian, just like Desdemona. Let me spread the slander or gossip that Michael Cassio and Desdemona are in love. Let me tell people, or let it reach the Moor's ears that his wife has already taken a lover in his absence, and that is his general. And so, with one stone, yes, he will get two birds. So, on one hand, Othello will be destroyed by this horrible slander, and on the other hand, Michael Cassio will lose his job. And both these ploys will equally satisfy Iago's evil genius. And so he tells Rodrigo, at first he calls Rodrigo and he tells him, this Desdemona, she is a common woman. She is not a goddess. Do not place her on a pedestal. She drinks wine that is made of grapes, just like all the rest of us. And believe me, she has found a lover in Cassio. And for that end, you must create a ruckus. You must fight and bait this Cassio so that he will fight with you, and the more will distance him, or the more will no longer take him on as a lieutenant. And then you can get rid of Cassio, and yet again the path to Desdemona is open for you. Rodrigo, at first we see that he is not willing to believe this. He says that that was mere hand holding, that was mere manners. But Iago is such a manipulator that and another thing about Iago which we need to realize is he knows all these characters far better than they know themselves. He can very astutely, he can judge their nature. And the fool Rodrigo is carried on by Iago's words. Iago convinces him that soon Desdemona will be fed up of the Moor and she is going to go with Cassio. So before that, in order to prevent that, you need to create a fight with Michael Cassio. And Rodrigo accepts that. Now, let us look at some of the important quotes here. We see that Cassio, this is one of the quotes which shows us Cassio's relationship to the Moor. Thanks to the valiant of this warlike isle that so approve the Moor, oh, let the heavens give him defense against the elements, for I have lost him on a dangerous sea. So he tells us that the whole of Cyprus regards the Moor as warlike, and he says, I am so grateful that this land looks upon my general as a warlike savior, and now I too pray that the elements of nature itself stand up with the valiant Moor and bring him back safely to land. Now again Cassio says about Desdemona, so we know about her character and what Cassio thinks. She that I spake of, our great captain's captain, left in the conduct of the bold Iago, whose footing here anticipates our thoughts. Great Jove, Othello guard, and swell his ship with thine own powerful breath, So here he says again, Iago is described as the bold Iago. My captain's captain, Desdemona, is being brought here, conducted here, protected by the bold Iago, the bold soldier Iago is bringing her here. And great Jove, great gods, protect Othello, breathe into him power that he may come back, that he may bless this bay with his tall ship. Make love's quick pants in Desdemona's arms, give renewed fire to our extinguished spirits, and bring all Cyprus comforts. Now, here we see the merging of the personal and the general. So, on one hand, we see something that is private. Cassio prays that his general would rush in, fall into the arms of his wife, and with quick pants in Desdemona's arms, make love. And on the other hand, he wants all of Cyprus to enjoy the benefit of this victory. Now, Iago, here is an example of his body speech. She that was ever fair and never proud, had tongue at will and yet was never loud, never lacked gold and yet never went gay, fled from her wish and yet said, Now I may. She that being angered, her revenge being nigh, bade her wrong stay and her displeasure fly. So here, these are all his quotes about women. How he says that if she be fair and wise, fairness and wit, the one's for use, the other useth it. So she will be wise enough to use her fairness to get what she wants. So we see that this is Desdemona's reply where she says, Oh, most lame and impotent conclusion! Do not learn of him, Emilia, though he be thy husband. How, how say you, Cassio? Is he not a most profane counselor? So we see her requesting Cassio to intervene, and she says, This man is so profane. How dare he talk about women in such a manner? Yet another thing we see about the position of women is that Iago, who is so cunning that he hides his thoughts from everyone. All the time we see that Iago is hiding his true nature, his true character. In front of every other man, he pretends to be very bold, very honest. But in front of women, he feels that he does not need to even cover up his true character, which is so ugly. And this shows us the Jacobean position of women. He does not even feel like telling lies or covering up. He is ready to tell Desdemona to her face that all women are promiscuous and led only by thoughts of material gain. And Desdemona, now the way she talks to Othello, this is another quote, the heavens forbid but that our loves and comforts should increase even as our days do grow. So here we see how loving she is, how she wishes to grow old with him and be his partner through all his trials and tribulations and his victories. Now, this is Iago talking to Rodrigo, and he says, Let not thy discreet heart think it, her eye must be fed. And what delight shall she have to look at the devil? So he's saying that Desdemona's eyes must be fed. She is amorous. She wants more and more love. She is not satiated. And how can her eyes be happy looking at this ugly Moor? So wait, she will soon come to you. When the blood is made dull with the act of sport, there should be again to inflame it and give satiety a fresh appetite. Loveliness in favor, sympathy in years, manners and beauties, all which the Moor is defective in. The Moor is no longer young, he is black, he is of a different culture. He cannot satisfy her for long. Soon her fairness, her youth, her beauty, very nature itself is, according to Iago, he says, very nature will instruct her in it and compel her to some second choice. And I know who that second choice is. It is Cassio, a knave, very voluble, no further conscienceable than in putting on the mere form of civil and humane seeming, but he is a slipper and subtle knave, a finder out of occasions, a devilish knave. So this is what Iago tells Rodrigo in order to bait him, in order to make him go and call out Cassio to fight with him. And when Rodrigo keeps saying that no, Desdemona is pure, Iago keeps telling him, the wine she drinks is made of grapes. If she had been blessed, she would never have loved the Moor. The very fact that she has had a mind of her own is being used against her. So here, Iago is trying to instill in the reader or the viewer the fact that if Desdemona could choose for herself, if she could fall in love with one man, without being such a chaste maiden as to sit back and wait for the choice of maybe a parent, that shows how willful she is. And here her truthfulness, her beauty, her confidence is all used against her. And Iago, here we see that a majority of the lines are given to Iago. We could say that the very play is equally Othello's as well as Iago's. In fact, Iago has the majority number of lines. And Iago, at last, when everyone goes, there is a monologue of Iago in which he says, I will drive the Moor so mad with jealousy that he will never know a moment's peace. He will not sleep anymore. And what is more, I shall make him thank me for it. So you can imagine the cunning, the devilishness. And one of the sad things we could say about Othello is we, the audience, or we, the reader, know what Iago is up to. And throughout, Shakespeare makes us miserable, almost guilty, because in some way we are becoming the accomplices to this torture that is going to be dealt out. We almost wish that we too could remain not knowing what is going to happen. And this is where he builds in the tension in his audience. So here we see the last paragraph of Iago. That Cassio loves her, I do well believe. That she loves him, 'tis apt and of great credit. The Moor is of a constant, loving, noble nature, and I dare think he will prove to Desdemona a most dear husband. So privately, this is his private opinion. He says that I know the Moor is noble, he's caring and loving. He will prove to be a wonderful, excellent, constant husband to Desdemona. Now I do love her too. And now he's thinking, do I love Desdemona? Yes, I too love her. Not out of absolute lust. No, I don't have absolute lust to her, but partly led to diet my revenge. But my revenge must take precedence over all these other thoughts. And for that I do suspect the lusty Moor. Again, using these words like lusty and devil-like and black Moor, very animal sentiments are being given to the Moor to make him look rather bestial than human. And here he says, the lusty Moor hath leaped into my seed. He has had his way with Emilia. I have heard such a slander. And here we see clearly that Iago himself does not believe in it. He knows that the Moor is totally in love with his wife. Yet Iago says that just for such a rumor, I would take revenge on him. At least into a jealousy, and now he says, I put the Moor at least into a jealousy so strong that judgment cannot cure. He will never be cured. If this poor trash of Venice, whom I trace for his quick hunting, stand the putting on, so if this trash, that is Rodrigo, if I can work on him, I will use him in order to take revenge on Cassio. And here again he says that even Cassio has had his way with Emilia. We also understand how disdainful, how disrespectful he is to his own wife, that he says that all these men have had their way with her. I will have our Michael Cassio on the hip. abuse him to the more in the rank garb. For I fear Cassio with my nightcap too. I fear Cassio has also worn my nightcap. He too has been in my home. And make the more thank me, love me, and reward me, and make him egregiously an ass. I will make him thank me for fooling him, and he will be a total ass in my hands, even to madness, and yet confused. So, this is what Iago's plan is. Scene 2, the next scene we see is a very small scene. Here we see the herald. He is saying that this is all there is. It is Othello's pleasure. Our noble and valiant general is telling us that the Turkish fleet has been defeated, and all people are to rejoice that from the evening to midnight, let them all dance, sing, party, enjoy themselves, and know that the Turkish fleet has been defeated, Cyprus is safe again, and yet one more detail that is given is our general, the great Othello, has got married and his wife is here. So that personal detail is also to be celebrated by the people of Cyprus. And for besides this beneficial news, it is the celebration of his nuptial. So much was his pleasure should be proclaimed. All offices are open, and there is full liberty of feasting from this present hour of 5 till the bell has tolled 11. Heaven bless the Isle of Cyprus and our noble general Othello. So that is all in the second paragraph. But the second para or the second scene is also very important because this is to set the scene or the preface for what is going to happen. We know that Iago has a lot of diabolical plans, and what is the best way to let these plans get into action? The best way would be to create a lot of feasting and frivolous music and dance in the city, so that in all the noise and din, Iago, unseen by anyone, can carry out his monstrous plans. So here we have to concentrate on the relationship between Othello and Desdemona. Again, there is the Jacobean England that has to come into mind. We see the position of women and the character of Desdemona, which can almost be called she is quite a feminist, because everywhere we see her boldness, her confidence coming into play.